All right, welcome back to Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff. Appreciate everybody in the audience. Want to thank the subscribers that are out there. And if you're listening and watching this program, make sure you hit the subscribe button now. Don't wait. Hit it. We're slowly building an audience here, and we got a lot going on. So much to talk about as we've hit the bye week. Well, we're kind of hitting the bye week, going through the bye week. Eagles play this weekend against the Browns at home. We're going to talk about that. We're going to dig into the details. Matt, once again, has joined us on the pod. So appreciate him always coming on and giving us time. So thank you again, Matt. He's really become an integral part of the show. Those of you who've been with us since the audio days certainly remember Matt. And we're thankful to have his insight on the birds as well. So lots to talk about. I mean, so much has gone on since we were last on.
Yeah.
But before we get going, I want to just see, because we might have some viewers out there from Florida. And basically right about now, the Hurricane Milton is making landfall in the area down there. So I wanted to extend our thoughts down there to anyone down in the Florida or people who have family or friends down in the Florida area. Our thoughts as they go through what looks to be a pretty rough. They've already had like 20-something tornadoes that hit from the outer band throughout the day today before the storm even made landfall. So
Crazy.
it's a tough go down there. So and it's literally making landfall really either right now within the next 10 or 15 minutes. So thoughts to everybody down in the Florida area, be safe and quick recovery for anyone. Matt, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that as well before we get started.
No, I hope everyone stays safe and sound. And if there's anything that's going to be lost from this hurricane, hopefully it's Todd Bowles' notes on how to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Hopefully that washes away forever and is never, ever found.
Man. Yeah, we don't want any other coaches getting his notes on how to beat the Eagles. Nope. That's for sure. It's the first thing I'd do if I was playing Eagles. I'd be putting on that Tampa Bay tape. That's a good point. So, yeah. Okay. So, top of the show. I feel like if I need to have like a soundboard or something. I don't have one right now. But as the show grows and we have more of a budget, we'll have more of all the bells and perks and whistles and everything. But
yeah,
there's always everyone's always, doesn't matter what it is. There's always your first, you name it. And we have our first Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff since we went to YouTube. Comment on our last show. So shout out to JMoo876. No idea who JMoo is, what JMoo means. Who cares, right? JMoo, thank you so much for your comment on the last program. I told you I would mention your comment on the program, and here we go. What he said was, and we'll give him and the rest of the audience our thoughts. His comment was, Eagles are not a playoff team without A.J. Brown. It's a flat out statement. Not really a question. That was his comment.
Yeah.
So,
that could very well be true.
Can we talk about it? Are the Eagles a playoff team if they don't have A.J. Brown?
Yeah, I think they are. I think A.J. Brown absolutely helps, but I think there's two things. I think that the Eagles are a playoff team on one condition, and only one condition applies. I think they can sustain some injuries. If Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the ball over 2 to 3 times a game, Eagles are going to the playoffs, period. Because how can you not?
Maybe that should be another question. Can the Eagles have a game this year without Jalen turning the ball over twice? I think he's averaging 2 a game almost, like 1.7 or something like that.
We'll find out when we talk about the Browns. Let's just take care of the Browns first. If he turns the ball over against the Browns and makes that a close game when it should be a complete blowout, we'll find out.
Give me 1 second. So what about A.J. Brown? I mean, how important is his team? And I guess his point is, the Eagles can't really win big games without him. Do you think that's the case? Let's just take the playoff picture out of it.
It certainly hurts to not have him on the field. But you've got so many weapons on that offense. I mean, Barkley, Goddard, Smith. There's the problem is the problem is Hurts doesn't trust anybody either, right? So it's hard enough to get him to throw the ball on time to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. But when he starts to hold that ball longer, like he really doesn't, he demonstrates his lack of trust with anybody else but those guys whenever they're gone. So again, I think it's a physical thing that Hurts needs to overcome when we don't have AJ Brown, and I think we would be fine. But as Jamu said, if Brown is out and Hurts can't do that, well then yeah, he might be right. Maybe we're not a playoff team. Because maybe Brown is the one thing that keeps Hurts having confidence in his arm, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird. Kind of a weird dynamic.
Yeah, I could certainly see fans that have that opinion because Brown is such an integral part of the team. I do also think the Eagles, now, his point was they're not a playoff team without him. So let's just say, hypothetically, because maybe that, so let's just say, hypothetically, completely, that A.J. Brown's been lost for the season. He's not come back. Let's just say he's got the hamstring and he's not going to play the rest of the year. Eagles make the playoffs or not?
Well, let's count back from the teams, right? Who would the division winners be at that point? Commanders? What can they keep it going? I don't know. Commanders, if we don't have Brown, it's tough to beat the Cowboys. The Giants are rolling with momentum, so we might not even be able to get out of the NFC East.
Right.
Before we even start counting the NFC teams like the Falcons, which, we had the loss when we should have won that game. The Packers, other teams. Detroit. Yeah. It's fair. I think it might be fair to say that. But I still think it would just depend on Hurts. If he just throws the ball, the Eagles have a chance in every game. Because how can you not? You have one of the best offensive lines in football still. Yeah. Even with Lane Johnson, we still have a pretty darn good line. And if you can't run the ball with Saquon Barkley, then why do we go get him? Like, run the ball.
Yeah,
run the ball. And that's a winning solution,
Which that, again, we talked about last week, but that should have been the strategy for Tampa Bay. Without Brown and Devontae Smith, why did Barkley only have 10 carries? I mean, that's just bad coaching.
Should be the main strategy every week. And I get it. Maybe it's early trying to keep Barkley, but you've got other backs. So just run. Yep. If things are screwy and we're off our tempo, just run the ball. Take a serious. Yeah. This is what Andy Reid, as much as we were frustrated sometimes with his play calling, when things were crumbling, and you see him do this with the Chiefs too. If stuff just wasn't working, he goes to the run game. And it'll be like, here's the one drive where we're just going to hand it off 4 or 5 times and go 60 yards down the field. So just run it. You've got the hogs, the horses, whatever you want to call them, the big birds. Just run the ball. It's so easy.
Yeah. We talked about it before in our last show. At least this is my opinion, that this is a game against the Browns. You got a team that's playing bad. They just got whooped on last week. They're not playing well. Deshaun Watson's not playing well. And the Eagles are at home, and they're off a bye. This is a game the Eagles need to win by more than 10 points.
Yeah.
And I'd be disappointed if they don't. If the Eagles don't win this weekend like 31-16, I'm not going to be happy. Just not.
No,
it's got to be a blowout game, a commanding win. I got to see it. I got to see it at some point this season. In fact, we haven't seen an Eagles win like that in probably about a year. Because last year, even when they were 10-1, how many of those games did you just barely win?
Most
when
of them.
Last time the Eagles just went out and just smacked
the team. Yeah, I can't remember.
A long time.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think I watched that whole Browns Commanders game, and I felt like I was watching the Eagles. I was like, oh, the Eagles found the Browns jerseys, because that's what it felt like watching the Eagles the week before. Of why are we, my favorite quote, why are we looking like a monkey F in a football? But I was like, I think I sent you a text in the middle of the game that was like, if we lose to the Browns, that will be hard to recover from. They are so bad. They are so bad.
Right. And it would be at home. But we also talked about the fact that if the Eagles got off to one of those slow starts in Philly this weekend, man, it's going to be ugly fast.
Yeah. Let's just say a pick six or a turnover fumble in our own 40 yards. It's not going to be good. The Browns don't have the offensive line that we have. So they should we should be able to make a successful week here against the Browns, but who knows? It's all up to the coaches. The Browns have a serious problem with Watson and Stefanski not being on the same page. And if people talk about Sirianni and Hurts, I mean, it's always weird. I heard Hurts on a press conference today come out and just say, somebody asked him, like, well, how was the bye week? How was the week off? And he goes, well, me and coach had some great moments. So I'm like, what? Why is this still the main topic? Like, is there really that much stress on that relationship behind the scenes? It's just weird. There's some weirdness there that's happening. And it's like, can't we just concentrate on football?
Yeah. And I don't even know if the media is feeding much into it, especially when he comes out and says something like that.
Right.
He's feeding into it.
It was an open-ended question, and he comes out, and I'm like, oh my God, can we let this rest? Rest. But how about no turnovers? I have one minimal goal for the Eagles-Browns game, and that's don't turn the ball over, right? Not just for Hurts, but no turnovers. Let's go no turnovers, and that should really be a 10-point win if we have no turnovers.
Yeah, exactly. That's always key. And especially if you're going to get upset at home to a bad team, that's how you do it. You got to turn the ball over, and Hurts has been the gift that keeps on giving, and he's got to stop that. If he wants to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league, which he hasn't played for in a long time now, he's got to stop turning the ball over. He just has to. So, before we move on, so thanks again to JMoo876 for the question. I know we kind of went off a little bit of a tangent there with A.J. Brown. I mean, I think we totally agree with you that the Eagles are, it's going to be tough for them to win without A.J. Brown, but I believe the Eagles can win without A.J. Brown. Whether they're going to win in the playoffs with A.J. Brown? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, if that's what your point is. But I think your comment was Eagles are not a playoff team without A.J. Brown. The way they're playing right now, yeah, they're not going to win without A.J. Brown. But I think Matt's point was, well, if Hurts stops turning the ball over, and I think Devontae Smith can prove, we know that he is more than adequate to fill in as the number one if A.J. Brown goes down. They have Barkley that they would need to give the ball more to. The defense will need to stop people. So there's a lot of things would have to go into, winning games without A.J. Brown. But certainly he's the best player in the team, I would think. He's probably the best player on the entire team.
Well, we had A.J. Brown. We had A.J. Brown for that entire losing streak at the end of last season.
Right. Well, except for the last playoff game because he got hurt in New York on the game that they shouldn't have played anybody.
Yeah, true.
Idiots. That's another story. Actually, my audience knows about how my thoughts on that are. The YouTube audience doesn't. But all right. So thanks again for the comment, and for all of you out there. List the comment below. If you agree with us, don't agree with us, just have a random comment, question. Type it down below, and we'll address it on the next program. All right. So out of all the quirky and weird things that happened this week, and Howie's off season, which I think we're going to have more critical eye on it. The linebacker that we were all excited about getting from Tampa Bay, Devin White. Was it Devin White or Devin White? He didn't even play this.
Devin White.
Devin White, yeah. Didn't play one down for the Eagles this year. And the Eagles released him yesterday. So
weird.
Your thoughts on that? Because I have mine.
Well, my thoughts are the reason why Tampa soured on him, there's probably reasons that are true behind the scenes with that one, because something wasn't working behind the scenes. Like Vic Fangio, I guess, wasn't a fan of Devin White. Like they never got, I mean, you might be talking about Hurts and Sirianni all the time, but Fangio and White seem to not even care about each other. Right. So, that one's just weird. I don't have much to say about it. I don't have really anything to say. Fangio put Dean in right before the opening game and said Nakobe's going to be our starter, and White was angry and took a seat, and that's it. That's all she wrote 5 weeks later. So, I don't
down though, especially after the games that it's not like Nakobe's had all these great games this year. He's had games where he's looked terrible. He's had games where he's looked okay.
Week 4 was bad.
Why hasn't White ever made it onto the field is still kind of puzzling. But what I'm hearing is that White, like they wanted him, they were going to put him on the roster on game day, they wanted him to play special teams as well, and White didn't want to play in special teams. So that's why he was not ever activated, which that kind of would make sense.
Could be. I'm not disappointed because if that means Jeremiah Trotter Jr. gets more play time, then I'm all for it. Let's see what Trotter Jr. can do. The mini me. So and that's it. There's nothing to say about White. Never saw him.
Right. Yeah, we'll forget about him quickly. Yeah.
Good luck.
If Trotter's able to get on the field, I think we're all going to be excited about that, and we'll all quickly. I mean, how could you not forget about White? He never played it down, so we're not going to. It's just. I guess it just gets to Howie's off season where some of the moves he made are just not, have just not panned out yet, and that was one of them.
Yeah. Sometimes in the off season he shores up some holes as like, well, if things don't go our way in the draft, or if other things don't happen, at least we plugged in a guy here that can play or has some experience. But I don't mind that kind of philosophy if that's the way it goes. But the linebacker position was so bad.
Yeah.
And you look at the Bears defense right now, by the way, with TJ Edwards. And I keep thinking of our end of season show when we were talking about free agents, keep or let them go. And we're like, keep TJ Edwards.
Yeah.
Edwards. And you look at this linebacker position and I'm like, imagine if TJ Edwards was on this team today. That would solidify a lot of things.
Tackling machine. That guy is a tackling machine.
Yep. So he's still
a really good player, and he's homegrown talent.
Yeah,
you don't let those guys go. The Eagles keep those guys
usually. Yep.
That
so
was.
It's just kind of weird so far.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'm like, whoever they brought in, it's like that's why I get disappointed when they don't run Barkley, because I'm like, you paid Barkley the money. That's where the money's sitting. So you can win games if you just go to Barkley, and then these other things are even a conversation. Because like. The offseason plan is working because we paid Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
But
again, especially last week, or last game, not last week because they didn't play, but the week before. Their last game, they're without their number 2 and number 1 wide receivers. And they have a bye week coming up. So there's every week to just keep handing the ball off to your running back because he's going to have a couple weeks off. And they give it to him for 10 times, just stupid coaching. I have a lot of issues with Sirianni. We talked about some of them last week, so I don't want to hammer him again. We need to improve our coaching. Sirianni, hopefully he's taken his bye week and has got his own shit together so he can figure things out. And Hurts, I think we've zoned in on the 2 major issues with this team. Outside of injuries and health, because that's always going to be a determining factor, but coaching Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and turning the ball over and just playing better quarterback.
Yeah. One of those things I expect to have already been fixed, though, and that's Jalen Hurts and his turnovers. He's the one that's the vested vet who just signed the $250 million contract. Sirianni has had to restructure the staff every single year he's been a head coach. So I'm like, if there's somebody that's unknown, it's Sirianni working with these new coaches and systems. Mm-hmm. And you can criticize that all you want for making bad calls, but everyone struggles when there's change. And I know Hurts has, gone through 3 different offensive coordinators now too. But when your simple task of just not turning over the ball, like you just stop. Like that's the coaching on that. Hey, stop turning over the ball. Like throw it away. Simple choice. You used to do that when you were in your second year, and we were fine. So
and I'm just like, if I was quarterback, right, and I knew that I'm watching, you always see about Hurts. Well, I got to watch the tape. I got to get better at this. I just got to play better. I got to do. I got to watch the tape. Well, if you're watching the tape and you have a quarterback's coach who's just for you, the quarterback, how could you watch the tape and not drill into his head to stay in the pocket or move up in the pocket?
Yeah,
that should be like in his head every game. That, hey, once I take the snap, unless there's like some ridiculous type of pressure where I need to run out, I'm staying in there.
Yeah.
I'm staying in there. I'm throwing into the pocket. I'm moving up into the pocket. And he has not done that.
No. I would have sound haptics going on and everything, and I'd be like 1, 2, 2.5, throw.
Get rid of the ball. Get rid of the ball.
Where's your clock that everyone else seems to have ingrained by the time they're in their 4th year as a quarterback? And you look at these guys like Jaden Daniels, and Daniel Jones had a really good football week last week. So I'm like, right now, Jalen Hurts is the 4th best quarterback in the NFC East with the way he's playing. 4th best.
We're paying him $250 million. Yeah, he is. I agree with you. I mean, yeah, Daniel Jones had a good game last week, and he did it without his number 1 wide receiver.
Yes,
Neighbors was not out there, and his starting running back wasn't in the game.
Yes.
They went to Seattle,
and they won.
Never freaking win.
They won in Seattle.
They beat Seattle.
They knocked off a big opponent who's also known for killing the Eagles, and they handled it. And that team momentum, I don't know if you watched that game or not. I watched that game. I was flipping back and forth between that one and the Cowboys later. I don't know, Cowboys was at night, but it was just like you watch a team now where that team was in chaos by the end of last season. And you're watching that team and you're thinking they've got their shit together. Like they have their shit together. And that's going to be a tough team as they start rolling with confidence, especially if they start to get better offensive line play, which it looks like they have.
Yep.
So
they got John Runyon's son on their team.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
So we better take care of business this weekend. That's all. Like we lose ground, we're going to be looking up.
This is why, and I know that you're more inclined to defend Sirianni from a lot of the backlash he's getting right now. I'm like right on the fence. I'm probably more on the fence, and you're more pro Sirianni. I'm really critical of a lot of his decisions this year. I know you are too, but I'm just saying I think I'm being a little more harder on him than you are. But we gotta have the talent on this roster. You should be able to go out against the Browns and blast them off the field. You look at the rosters, and if you can't do that at home after a bye week, then it's coaching too. I mean, you got to blame the players, of course, as well. Yeah. They've got to freaking get up for this game too and go out there with an attitude and like, hey, the season's now a month in. Preseason is over. To your point, Matt, let's freaking play some football. We're a much better team. Let's show it. But that also is coaching. So I got to see a dominant performance this week. I have to see it.
We'll see what happens. The Eagles wanted Vic Fangio as a head coach before they signed Nick Sirianni, but Fangio went down to the Dolphins. So, he went from Denver down to Miami.
Right.
So who knows? The first coach firing having been happened, just yesterday.
Right. Soleil at the Jets. Yep.
I'd be surprised if Lurie does the same thing, but you never know. It's copycat league. It
is. I think Lurie's a little more strategic in his thinking, though. I can't see.
But if Fangio's already in the house, then he's already.
Yeah, there. I mean, I think it would take another 3 or 4. Like if he loses to the Browns,
I think that's going to be
pretty bad.
Yeah. If they lose to the Browns, I think they'll be thinking big time.
Well, maybe. I'm like, nah, but now I'm like, man. Again, even to my own point, if they lose to the Browns, maybe Lurie will shake things up. And I guess to that point, Sirianni needs to win this game.
Yeah,
more than anyone else. Because Hurts, I think you mentioned this the last podcast. He's not going anywhere.
He is hot. It's on fire. He has got to.
Yeah,
I would be. He's going to be burned if he loses to the Browns. His hot seat is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So
what are your thoughts, really quick, since you mentioned it, on the Jets firing their coach 4 weeks? I can't remember. Can you remember the last time a head coach was fired 5 weeks into a season, or earlier than that? I can't. Off the top of my head, it's probably happened, but I can't remember.
No, usually they get fired once they know they're mathematically eliminated.
Right? Yeah.
So.
Right.
4 weeks. No, that's the earliest I've ever heard of. Other than, not as a firing, but Bill Belichick resigned as the coach of the Jets after like one day, right? When Parcells named him as the coach. before he went.
Yeah, that doesn't really count though. But yeah, I
the resignation. But other than that, it's weird.
No.
Like I don't know, and I'm not. Who knows if Aaron Rodgers is behind that or not? The truth will never come out of that, I don't think. But
he's denying it. Yeah, he's denying that he was. But I don't know. I think the owner's probably just sick of it. I don't know. He's not a good coach, though. I don't think he's a good coach, the guy. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. I think he makes a good defensive coordinator. He was really good in San Fran as the defensive coordinator. I'm just not sure he's a head coach. Every time I see him on the sidelines, he's almost like Kotite. It's like just doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. And he always has the same expression no matter what happens in the game.
Yeah. Well, so if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you're coming off a loss to the Browns, and you can fire Nick Sirianni and promote Vic Fangio to interim head coach and then sign Robert Saleh as a DC.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that would happen though, because Fangio's he's a defensive guy, and he would probably want one of his defensive guys in there. And I don't think
I'm not sure what the coaching tree is though, but where did Saleh come from?
I don't think he came from Fangio, did he?
He may not have. I'm not sure. I know he was with the Niners.
Yeah, he was in the Niners.
In a 4-3-D.
I don't really know the answer to that question. I think it's a definite good fit if he was one of the disciples of him, but I'm not sure he is though.
I'm curious to know which tree he came from. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, you want to talk Browns? Keys of the game or anything?
Well, we're almost there. I want to talk about one of the moves that has been rumored to be changed. One of the changes the Eagles are making is one we hinted about last week. So once again, Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff is on the cutting edge. We are thinking about these moves before the Eagles even do it, because we mentioned this on the last podcast, is that Cooper DeJean is going to be starting over Maddox this week. Good. So they have made that move. And I think
Sidney Brown's
Sidney Brown might be back too.
He's right? So he's back at practice.
Yep.
Good to see. So now you're talking CJ Gardner-Johnson and Cooper DeJean and Sidney Brown in another week or two. So that's a pretty good safety group. I'll take that. And it's great.
Yeah.
Maddox on the sidelines there, ready to come in if he's got to play slot or, safe. Maddox, he's probably he's better off as a slot guy anyways, but I'm not sure he's got the quickness still to even play the slot.
He definitely looks like he's lost a step to me.
Yeah.
I think he's still good at reading defenses. He can make the pick. He could do, he could play pretty physical against the run. He could do those type of things. Although he's the one that missed. He's the one that totally whiffed on that flat pass last week or last game. I mean, that was horrible. But
yeah, I like the move with Cooper starting. He'll be playing with some energy. Watson and Cooper seem to be just not on the same page this year. So who else do you have to worry about at Browns wide receiver? Not much. So it's a good game to get a start and get some rookie action going for Cooper. Maybe he gets an interception. That'd be awesome. That'd be pretty cool.
No, I'm excited. I mean, it's time to make the youth movement. You had to buy to do it. He missed a lot of camp. He probably would have been starting right off the bat this year, potentially at least, if he didn't miss up most of the camp because of his injury. So he missed all the snaps, didn't play any preseason games. So we knew it would take a while for the Eagles to get him in. And they kind of the last couple of weeks have been breaking him in, giving him some playing time. I don't think he ever wants to return a punt again for this team.
No, his risk of injuries.
I feel so bad for him. I mean, here's a guy who's a rookie. They sent him out there because, what's his name is out for this, for about 6 weeks. And he's got his own guys pushing people into him. I'm like, can the guy just catch his first ball? My God. Yeah, he could have got hurt on that play too. Definitely could have had his knee taken out. I'm like, what the heck is it? So I don't know who they're going to have. That's a good point. I wonder if they've tried other people at punt returns this week, because Covey's not coming back for a while. He's out.
They activated the window on the other wide receiver that they drafted too.
Right.
K.S. Smith was that his name?
I think so.
So who knows? I don't think they have any other short, speedy guys. Probably Gainwell. I mean, they might have
Gainwell back there.
Yeah, who knows?
Or even Shipley. Either one.
I would like to see Shipley get some plays. Like I thought in this offseason that you would have seen a lot more variables in this Kellen Moore offense, where you're running Barkley but you're also using Shipley, Gainwell, and Barkley in the passing game as just these light little short safety valves, just 4 or 5 yards at a time.
Yeah.
And Shipley's proven to do that. And he hasn't had even he's a powerful back too. So just give him the ball. I don't like it when players go stale. Like that's what ticked me off about the late 60-yarder from Elliott. I'm like, you haven't even let him kick yet. So why are you going to let him kick a 60-yarder? He's not even warm.
Right.
And I feel like these other running backs need to get some touches. And that doesn't mean if you're not running Barkley and you're wanting to give him a break, you still pass the ball. Get these other guys involved. I want to see Shipley involved. I want to see Gainwell involved.
I'd like to see him in certain packages where both Barkley and Shipley or Barkley and Greenwell are on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
I can't remember what game I was watching last week, but they were doing that with their running backs. They had both their running backs in there. It might have been Kansas City game. I forget who it was. Maybe not Kansas City, but some team did that. I'm like, well, why did the Eagles have Barkley and Shipley out there? You know,
they need to play these guys and get them going. Because if you lose Barkley late, you're going to want to have Gainwell and Shipley ready to go. So let's go, coaches. If I have one comment about Sirianni that I'm not going to be giving them the pros for, the con is, get your guys involved. Run the ball. I think I've said that enough. Run the ball.
Yeah, we both hammered that home. Okay, so any other thoughts around the league before we zone in on the Browns game? Because the Eagles have had a couple weeks since they played. Just thoughts. I mean, you mentioned, Daniels looks. This guy.
It's funny because everyone wanted to cut him
at all. It's amazing how good this guy looks right now. It's almost like, when is it going to crash on him? Because he can't keep playing this well throughout the whole season. It's never happened before where rookies came in and has been this good. But maybe he's this good. I don't know. But holy smokes.
You know what, though? We were probably all saying that Carson Wentz's first season when he started. He wasn't that good statistically wise, but when Wentz went through those first 5 games as an Eagles quarterback, and we saw the opener that year against the Browns.
You were there, yeah. We saw his first touchdown. Yeah.
This guy can scramble. He can run out of the pocket. He can throw accurately on the move. And it's like, wow. And he was laying up passes to, I can't even name the receivers back then. That was before AJ and Smith. Yeah. How quickly I forgot those. But that's the last time I saw a rookie quarterback be able to do things like that, right? Like Lamar Jackson was great as a rookie, but all of those guys had definitely more running skill than passing skill. And Lamar is just incredible right now. But Jaden seems to have it all going all at the same time.
He can run too, this Daniels guy. I mean, he's unbelievable. I mean, we'll have Johnny Flowers back in the show. I'm sure he's itching to come back in and talk about his Commanders. They're in first place. The freak quarterback's playing out of his mind. He's been he's had to come on this show every single time and just be like, all down in the dumps because his team just stinks. But different perspective for Johnny, man. So he probably can't wait for the Eagles to play the Commanders this year.
Yeah, the local buzz is rightfully so full of glee in the Washington, D.C. area. And it's kind of exciting to watch the guy. I've watched him every week. Back and forth.
You get his games because you're down in that area.
Yeah.
So you see him every week. I mean, I just see the highlights. But his highlights are unbelievable. Like those passes, and I talked about it when I think Johnny was on here. Those passes that he made in that one game, what was that, the Atlanta game? For whoever there was that they upset. Those passes to McLaren that he made
on the money
face in the corner of the end zone. It's like those were difficult passes to make. He put them on the money. He hasn't come back ever since. I'm still waiting every week for this guy to have a bad game. He hasn't had a bad game.
No, and he's learning to slide now instead of taking hits. I mean, everything about that team, and you hear Dan Quinn speak about his team, and it's all the right things. Like that team is going forward with a lot of momentum and playing for each other, and they've got a great coach, and they've got an O-line that's doing good enough, and they got a running game and a good quarterback.
McLaren, it's not like he's got a stacked offense. I mean, McLaren's really good. We know that. But who else?
Got a really good running game that they use.
Good running game.
Right? And they Austin Eckler, and even the third string guy a couple weeks ago had like 2 touchdowns, McNichols.
Yeah, so it's a good mix that they have at running back because that Brian Robinson Jr. is physical back. Then you have Eckler as a good back, just a passing back, just a touchdown machine. That guy's always been.
Yep.
And so they have a good mix there, and everything's coming together. I'll tell you what, it just tells you how important having a good quarterback is, because it's like night and day in this league. If you have a bad quarterback, your team stinks. If you have a good quarterback, look what it could do.
And they have a good OC. You know, Cliff Kingsbury's coming up with incredible offensive designs for this, because they've shown all things, right? They've come out and they've had a game plan where they're just going to run, and Daniels will just throw a few short to mid-range passes, and they've won that way. And then they've won with them needing to go deep and long, and they've done it all, right? So that's a dangerous team playing with a lot of
definitely dangerous. Definitely a team that we thought would be probably a couple easy wins this year. That ain't going to happen. So, now the Eagles need to be focused on themselves and get their own wins, because it wasn't a good bye week for the Eagles. All three teams won. Cowboys came back and beat the Steelers late in a game that they probably could have lost or should have lost, but give them credit. They came back and won with the count.
They hung in.
The Giants, there's no way. I would have bet my house that there was no way Daniel Jones was going to go to Seattle, or the Giants in general, without Neighbors and without their running back, and come home from Seattle would have win.
Yeah.
No way in the world I would have put everything I had on the Giants. That's why I don't bet on
No, and the interesting thing about the Giants is they got ripped apart, right, in the media networks and just everybody on social media, because of the Barkley deal and because of the Hard Knocks offseason, where the owner is basically like, I'm going to be really disappointed if Barkley goes to the Eagles. He's our whole team. So it's pretty crazy that that plan from the GM over there is actually working out, right? They did improve the offensive line. He did say we're going to focus on Daniel Jones. And because of that, now I still think they would have traded for Daniels if Washington was willing to let Daniels slide or take a draft trade for that. But once that was off the table, it's like, boom, they get Malik Neighbors, and the team starts playing with some confidence. And to beat Seattle is just like, okay, all right, there's another contender that the Eagles now have to worry about. Like, they barely beat the Giants team of last year, and that team was awful. And now the team, Daboll's got them all in the right direction, right? So you look at Dan Quinn coaching the Commanders, you look at Daboll coaching the Giants, and those guys are heading the right way. There's two coaches in the NFC East that don't fit with those two. McCarthy and Sirianni are both kind of on that pressure cooker of like, you better get your shit together and get the team heading the right direction, which McCarthy right now is ahead of Sirianni. Sirianni's clearly the last place coach right now in the NFC East. And if you watch the way that the teammates, if you just watch demeanor, right? If you're looking at the Giant sideline, you're watching their demeanor and you're watching the Commanders' demeanor, they just seem to be excited to play football. And when you watch the Browns, like I did last week, just like all the other Eagles games the weeks before, I'm like, are these guys like, what the hell, guys? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, where's the emotion? Where's the power? You're like, and you get a little bit of that from CJ Gardner. You got a little bit more from the defense than you ever did on the offense this season.
Right.
So it's like, and the defense was supposed to be the struggling one, and the offense was supposed to be the bunch carrying the team through, halfway through the season. So, I don't know. I think the Giants, if we're talking pretenders or
contenders. Contenders and pretenders.
Or contenders, yeah. Thanks for the word. I'm like, or for real. Then, the Giants are kind of like on that 50-50 mark. I'm not sure they're proven yet, but the Commanders have beaten some pretty good teams. Yeah. And I think now
they're killing teams the last couple weeks.
35
points a game.
Yeah. And you see these games, we're through the preseason now. And I think like, you can tell who's for real. It's kind of funny because some guys I have right at the same level. Like, who is the pretender or the contender, Seattle or New York? Well, that'll be interesting to watch those teams over the next 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah. But if you're looking at the NFC East, then I think and we were just putting arrows, up arrows or down arrows. Well, the down arrows are definitely on the Eagles right now. And
the only down arrow in the division right now
is the Eagles, because the Dallas Cowboys are probably flatlined, right? Like,
Yeah, I put them flat.
Right? They're flat, but Giants are up. Commanders are way up. And the Eagles,
Commanders are double arrows right now.
if the Eagles don't dismantle the Browns to at least get to a flat line, then they're double down. Right?
Yeah.
Like lose to the Browns, like you're in the basement. And that's going to be a tough hole to dig out of this year. So for the NFC East, that's what I think about them. Do you want to go around the league a little bit?
We'll keep it NFC East focused, unless you got any team that stands out you would want to give a comment about. But otherwise, I like to just keep it NFC East, for just the time of the show as well. Unless there's another team that you just was like that has really shocked you so far. Is there one out there?
No, but the other local team that I watch down here is the Ravens, and they are for real. So
yeah, they're good.
That team has got a lot of tools and keep playing. And they guess what they do that the Eagles don't do? They run the freaking ball.
Probably a few different things. They take away the ball. Is that what you said?
No, they run the freaking ball.
Oh, they run the ball. Yeah, I mean Henry. This guy has already had two runs over 70 yards this year. So anyone who thought that he was out of gas, I mean, Henry's a beast. That guy's going to go to the Hall of Fame easy.
And they'll running back lineups where they've got Henry and the other running back on the field at the same time. But when they get in trouble, when Baltimore gets in trouble, they just consolidate and they're like, we're going to run. We're just going to take this quarter and run that ball between Lamar Jackson and Henry and whoever else. And it's amazing because there's no tight ends that can't have an explosive game on the Ravens either. Like anybody who drafted Mark Andrews in fantasy.
I have Andrews in my fantasy.
Oh, you got him.
Yeah. One reason why I'm 0-5.
Yeah, Isaiah Likely and then the third stringers catching touchdowns last weekend. These guys are amazing.
And that play by Lamar Jackson last week, that was Randall Cunningham-esque.
It was.
Play where the guy was on him and he kind of like fends him off with his hand, runs all like 15 yards backwards and then finds Likely in the end zone.
Yep.
There's only a few quarterbacks that can make plays like that. Like Randall Cunningham, maybe Michael Vick, and Lamar Jackson. That's it.
Lamar is such a fun guy to watch. I've watched him his whole career.
One thing is, he was really here's a guy. I'm glad you brought up Jackson because it's a good guy to talk about. Lamar Jackson is a guy that was, he's got all this athletic ability coming out of college. They knew that he could run like crazy like that, but they always criticize him. In fact, I still hear criticize him about how he can't throw the ball. And I don't see it. I think he can throw the ball fine.
He can throw it fine.
He just criticize him about he's not accurate and everything. I've seen the guy make a ton of plays with his arm.
No.
So,
and his wide receivers are like McNabb's wide receivers, only slightly
decent wide. Zay Flowers is a good player.
But but you don't see a dominant number one on there. You see Aguilar will pull in 3 or 4 balls.
Yeah, he's dominant.
Will pull in 2 or 3 balls. Flowers is obviously the leader, but there are no game breakers there. Flowers is like a chains mover. He eventually has a few explosive plays. Lamar Jackson spreads that ball around to everybody that's open, and when you add his running and throwing capabilities, he's the best in the league. Like he's heading right towards another MVP season. And they weren't supposed to be up there with the Chiefs and all this stuff. And you look at the Chiefs kind of fumbling and they might be a little bit of on the pretender category this year.
Yeah.
But the Ravens are just one team that was like, no, that right now, if I had to pick a Super Bowl team to win everything, my money would be on the Ravens right now.
All right. Browns, Eagles.
Oh boy.
Keys of the game. We've already kind of tackled some of them. No turnovers. Hurts needs to freaking get his act together. Coaching needs to make some good coaching decisions. Keys of the game. We'll go through them quickly, and then we'll probably wrap the show up because I want to keep it within about an hour or so. So, keys of the game, Matt. And you can even repeat what we talked about. I mean, obviously can't turn the ball over, but go ahead.
Can't let this Browns defense get any momentum, right? Can't let them get hot. Can't let them get inspired. So they have to have a plan for Myles Garrett, number one. That's probably the number one key.
He's banged up. He's been playing like injured all year. He's got two bad ankles, I think, or something like that.
So he's the one guy that I'm like, you got to pay some attention and win that battle and have a plan for it. That's where this Eagles offense doesn't seem to have a plan sometimes for certain players that they know are going to be a problem, And then they end up wrecking the whole game because you're like, why can you not adjust and throw the back over there to help chip, and some of this that we've seen over the last couple of years. So Myles Garrett really on on defense worries me, but on offense, I'm like, the Browns have looked so bad and so backwards that I'm like, just play good defense and tackle. Just tackle guys, and we should be able to beat the Browns on offense pretty easily, especially if Jalen Carter is able to cause some havoc. It's kind of crazy how after that game that we talked him up so much about, all of a sudden fades away last weekend. And we're like, where's the consistency? That's the difference we were saying between a Hall of Famer and just a good player. Like, Jalen, you got to come back, please, and do it weekly, right? So that'll be interesting. If we get some young guys in the game to watch on defense, I would love to see Jeremiah Trotter be on the field at some point.
Will be good. Like I said, if they have a game where they break out and they're up by a good amount, late in the game, bring in Trotter. Give him some plays. At that point, if you're not going to start them this week,
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see Tanner McKee.
The Eagles situation is that they're up big in the second half and can do that.
Yeah. I would love to see him get up big, and then Tanner McKee ends up in the game and just keep some offense going, so I can see him play more.
Yeah,
because I will be out of patience if Hurts has another 2-turnover game and we lose to the Browns. I'll be like, dude, you need to sit. Yeah, Andy Reid benched McNabb at the height of his career. Like, you need to take a seat and get your mind.
Yeah,
and
let's turn this home because we know how Philly is. And the tolerance level, look at our tolerance level. We're not even in the city.
I know. Yeah.
If they come out in the first quarter again and don't score any points against the Browns after a bye week, and they're down 3-0 or something like that, and they're playing like crap, or Hurts has turned the ball over once, or the offense is not moving, dude, the rain of boos is going to be so loud.
Thunderous. And go get them, local Philly, because we appreciate it outside the city.
They've earned it. They have earned every single boo. We're going to be booing from our televisions. Matt and I, this is a game that we were hoping to be at. Matt, by the way, happy early birthday shout out to you. This is going to be Matt's birthday on Sunday. So hopefully the Eagles can bring him a birthday victory. But I'm telling you, all of the atmosphere, the elements, the ingredients, it's all there if the Eagles get a bad start to just overwhelm them with negative energy.
Yeah.
And again, they've earned that, but you'd hate to see it happen. I don't want to even think about it. Go out there this week, get up 10-0 in the first quarter, and just blow them out 35-16, like I was saying.
I tell you what I don't want to see. I don't want to see A.J. Brown back. And then they think they're being smart, so they're going to throw it to AJ on the first play. And because it's AJ's first game back, he's double covered because, of course, the Browns are looking for that. And Jalen throws the ball anyways, late and intercepted. And I'll be like, oh, boy.
By running off to the right.
The game at that point.
Imaginary pressure and moving over to the right and making a Houdini pass down the field to AJ Brown. It's picked off.
I'd be like, bench. I would take Hurts right out of that game and say, Tanner, you're in.
Yeah.
You're in. Good luck, kid.
Telling you, we're getting to that point. If Hurts doesn't turn things around, but we're going to try to keep it positive here. All right. So
I think we need a Browns victory so we can get back to some positivity because that's where we're at, right? I think we're actually tuned in with all of Philly right now too. But
I was always saying, right? Matt and I's sentiment right now on the team. We're not going to, on this program, we're not going to have the Eagle pom-poms, man. We're going to tell you the way it is. If the Eagles deserve pom-poms heading into this week, we would be giving them pom-poms. We would be cheering for them. We'd be giving them their flowers, talking about how great they are. This team has not shown us anything, really, not much, for almost a year worth of football. Maybe not that long, but, let's say 12 games. They haven't blown anybody out, to my point earlier in the program. When was the last time the Eagles went out and blew somebody out? I can't even remember the last time. I really can't. I can't tell you even last year when they blew somebody out. It had to be early in the season. Maybe they had 1 or 2 games. But a lot of those late wins before their long losing streak, they barely won those games. The one against the Chiefs, the Bills. I forget who else they might have played there before they went in their long losing streak. They barely beat those games.
You know what? They handled the Dolphins pretty well.
Maybe it was a Dolphin game. That's true. It was the Dolphins. I think it might have been.
last game where they had control of that from like the second quarter on and never.
That might be it. Yep. But when was that? Week 4 last year. So like it's been about a year.
Yeah. So let's go. This should be it.
I gotta see it. All right. So give me a final score prediction.
God, it could be a turnover mess on both teams. I'm trying to be positive, but I just don't see. See a sign of hope. I've been predicting high the last 2 or 3 weeks because we keep turning the ball over. So I'm going to go low. I'm going to go with 17-10.
Wow. So you still don't have the Eagles getting their offense going yet. Hey, I'm with you, but man,
I think you have 2 teams that could switch uniforms and you still wouldn't know who's who for this game based on what I've seen up to this point.
I'm so sick of watching that kind of football right now. I don't want to see it.
That's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
But you do have them winning, though. 17.
I'll have them winning. They better freaking win. If not, tune in next week for some ultra rant because
we haven't had an episode. The audio people, the ones that have been with us on the audio side before we went to YouTube, they've heard some rant shows. We haven't had one yet on YouTube, but if they lose to the Browns, you're definitely going to tune in. You don't want to miss that episode.
So where are you at game?
I've been throwing this score out a couple times. I think maybe I really should probably use my brain more than my optimism. Like I can't see this team continuing to stink with as much offensive power as they have. At some point, this team has to wake up. And I feel like I've talked about it twice. I've mentioned it twice. I think they do it this week. Maybe I'm setting myself up for disappointment.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of middle ground in between where my mind is at and where your mind is at. Maybe there's always a chance it's a close game and they're in the 20s or something. But what are you thinking for score?
Well, I'm thinking, maybe I should be more like right now. I'm up in the 30s with the Eagles. That's where I've been, but they haven't proven they could do that. So maybe I shouldn't be as high as I am. You're almost making me double think myself. But I'm like, I'm gonna move it down. So like I had 35-ish. We'll go to 30. Eagles 30, and I'll go Browns 17. That's where I'm at.
Ride in that stock market, huh? Uh-huh.
Now, if you want to ask me how confident I am in that score, that's a different story.
I'm highly confident in my score.
I'd be more confident in your score too, because that's the team's been playing. I guess I'm expecting Eagles to finally break out. So yeah. Finally.
If there's one coaching staff that is making just as many I don't know what the right word would be, just like whimsical decisions, like why would you have done that there? Like the Browns is equal to the Eagles coaching staff. Like they're all over the place. They always seem like they don't know when to go for it on 4th down. They don't know when they should have kicked the field goal. They don't know when they should have run the ball. And it's so dysfunctional. Watching them last week, I was just like, this team is in disarray, and that's how I felt these first 3 or 4 weeks. We have one win against the Saints that we felt pretty good about, and
that's a good win. That was the only good win this year. The opening day. Well, I guess the Packers. We'll give them that too. That's a tough team.
Packers, and I have more faith that the Packers are the better team than the Saints will be at the end of the season.
Yeah, they are.
Kind of pretenders at this point. They haven't beaten anybody since the Eagles beat them.
Right. Yeah, the Eagles, they were undefeated, and the Eagles went down there and beat them. So, and I don't think they won since. I'm not sure if they've even won since. Yeah.
No.
So they've come back down. But, all right, 17-10, Matt says Eagles win. I go 30-17. Yeah, I'm almost shaking my head saying that, but
that sounds like a lot of points.
At some point, this Eagles offense has got to freaking show up.
AJ's back. Jamu calls it. Jamu 876 is that our commenter? He'll be watching.
Mr. Jamu 876. It could be the AJ Brown game, but I don't want to see. To your point, man, I don't want to see the Eagles just forcing the ball to AJ because they have him back. Spread the ball around, run the ball, Go to AJ when you got the single coverage or whatever on him. And
I'm not sure I trust Jalen to do that.
Yeah, I don't trust him to do that right now. I guess I guess I gotta explain a little bit more why I have the disparity that I have. Eagles are at home, off the bye week. Browns are playing horrible. It's almost the perfect team for this to come into Philadelphia and have the Eagles finally
themselves
show what they could do. That's what I'm thinking. That's where this is coming from. I could be 100% wrong.
Well, so that's it, right? It's either a get right game or it's a Greek tragedy.
Or it's a red flags all over the place game. Yeah. Yeah. It's going to exactly. Either way, you're going to want to tune into the post game. Matt, at some point, I know it's going to be tough for you, but it'd be cool to have you on a post game, an actual raw post game. This is an afternoon game on Sunday, right? I'm not saying you have to this week, but maybe one of these weeks you can jump on for the post game and we can get your raw right after the game. But we'll figure that out. Either way, I will be here post game, and we'll have Matt join us later in the week, like he normally does, to give his post game thoughts on the game. But either way, we're looking for an Eagles victory. Matt, any closing thoughts before we end the program?
Make it happen. Make it happen, because we don't want to deal with a week with a loss to the Browns. Not this season. I can't.
I'll guarantee this: if the Eagles somehow monkey effing a football against the Browns and they lose, you will no doubt want to tune in to Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff and Matt and watch and listen to the post game recap.
Thank God the FCC doesn't monitor YouTube. Otherwise, we'd have to hire the bleeper guy.
I hope we don't have to ever go there, but that would be, and it's going to be entertaining regardless. Hopefully, we're talking about a victory. All right. Make it happen, birds. Let's get a win. Fly, Eagles, fly. Happy birthday. And shout out again to Matt, who's going to turn a year older, getting closer to that 50 mark.
Still a full 365 days plus away right now. That's plenty.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks again for tuning in. As always, make sure you hit the subscription, comment below. Any comments, we'll address them next week. Let's fly, Eagles, fly.
I just subscribed.
And we'll catch y'all later. Thanks again for tuning in. See you.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.